Discover solutions to issues that affect your family and professional life with practical information to help you get past life's adversities. Take a proactive approach to power up your life with Rosalie's expert resources. Archer Disability Foundation celebrates another year of disability mentoring, teaming up with our mentor friends at the VA Medical Center in West Palm Beach, where students and job seekers with disabilities were introduced to a range of different employment options. We were also invited to sit down in the VA studio to discuss the employment process and new programs to advance employment opportunities for vets and others with disabilities. We have with us James Murray, Disabilities Employment Program Manager, and he's going to talk about how he has got his job and what he's doing here at the VA to address the needs of people with disabilities. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, Ms. Archer.
Listen, first of all, tell me, how did you get your job? How did this whole thing start?
I volunteered to be the People with Disabilities Employment Program Manager because after working in rehab for some time, the one thing I've learned to love is improving someone's quality of life. There's nothing more rewarding. And as the People with Disabilities Employment Program Manager, I get to do that on a grand scale.
How did you become so passionate about people with disabilities?
Well, myself, I'm legally blind in my left eye due to an injury when I was younger. So I've had to do some small adaptations, such as put a reading stand next to my computer so that I can glance quickly right and left. I have a close family member of mine who has epilepsy, and my grandmother had multiple sclerosis for about 30 years, where my grandfather was her sole caretaker, and that instilled some values into me that I bring with me today. So I'm really passionate about working with people with disabilities. And the main thing is improving somebody's quality of life. There's nothing more rewarding.
Yeah, and then that's the truth. All right, tell me about some of your work you do with the targeted disabilities. What is a targeted disability?
Well, the targeted disability is a disability that has been identified by the federal government as those disabilities which keep people from obtaining employment more so than others. And those disabilities include total deafness, total blindness, without corrected lenses, also missing extremities, multiple extremities, epilepsy, psychiatric disorders, which include PTSD, and depression, clinical depression, which both are common these days.
Yeah.
The importance of identifying the employees here who we have with disabilities, targeted disabilities, is so that we know who needs the help. So if in the future, if there's extra funds that can be used to start up programs to help people, we know who needs the help. And the difficulty is that employees need to offer this information. And right now, I'm doing my best to identify the employees that we have here at the West Palm Beach Medical Center who have disabilities. We're currently going to each service and passing out self-identification forms.
Right, so how about, James, those employees that you don't know about their disabilities? How are you going out there and seeking that opportunity to reach out to them?
Well, we have an electronic bulletin here that we have in plasma screens throughout the hospital, and we have advertised who I am and my contact information. I've also started up a People with Disabilities team, which includes right now about 40 employees on my email list, where I get out information of events that we're holding. We also had an event this week, actually, with a panel of employees with disabilities talking about their experiences here at the VA. Now, employees need to offer that information that they have a disability in order for them to be helped.
Right.
Now, not all disabilities you can see. And some employees don't want to offer up that information because they don't want to be labeled by their co-workers or their supervisor. Now, I'm doing my best to educate them that this information does not go into their employee file. It goes into what is known as the paid system, where the information is entered and then shredded. Mm-hmm. And it's used for statistical purposes only, so that in future we know what programs we need to start up in order to help those who need it.
You're putting out newsletters, you're reaching out there to these employees. Do you have a specific number, those statistics, that you can identify how many people you have that are blind, cognitive disabilities, or whatever?
Probably in about the last 6 months, we were at about 1.4% of the employees here at the medical center were identified as having a disability. After my effort of going to the services and advertising the importance of self-identifying yourself, the last I checked, I believe we're at about 1.7 now. And it may even be more than that. So we're doing the best we can to identify the employees we have here with disabilities so that we know who needs the help in the future.
What is your ultimate goal of having this program at the VA Medical Center here in West Palm?
My goal is to properly identify the employees here who have disabilities so that, again, in the future we help those who need it. Again, I am developing a team to go floor to floor, room by room, to identify barriers here at the hospital to people with disabilities and to make suggestions as how those can be remedied.
Coming home can be hard if you're a veteran of Iraq or Afghanistan. You may feel like you're all alone, but you're not alone. At iava.org, your fellow vets are all around you. Join our free online community, get the resources you need, and connect to other vets who know where you're coming from. iava.org. We've got your back.
David, tell us a little bit about what special accommodations that are provided here at the VA Medical Center for you as an employee.
Well, as an employee, they provide me with a closed-circuit television so that I can raise a printed material onto my computer screen. The neat thing is that the CCTV and the computer are connected together. So I only have to have one monitor instead of two monitors, two separate monitors.
Okay.
So that's one piece of equipment that is really helpful for me to do my job here. And when I want to switch to the computer, then I can just hit the foot pedal over here with my hand and get the computer screen. So that when I log into the computer, my computer talks to me. I use a combination of speech, which is called JAWS, and I use a combination large print, which is called Zoom Text. Two separate programs that I have on my computer. Okay? And at this point, I'm just at the desktop here. And then I can go into the VA CPRS, which is their record system, or I can go into Outlook or the internet or wherever I want to go. Okay, so I'm in my Outlook now. And what it did was it read me the first line of my first message. And if I want to arrow down, it will read that to me again. So we'll hear it.
Red, slime, Magnolia, Carolina, admissions and discharges for the week of Act 17, 2011, Friday 10/14/2011, 10:25 a.m.
So, you know, I can just continue reading down and see what my messages are.
Reply and no reply all. Ratchy, Elfrida J. Construction closure Friday 10/14/2011, 10:06 a.m.
I can access any information here in the hospital as well as other stations throughout the country. Sometimes we get patients that come in from Ohio or Chicago or wherever in the country, and I can access their information, or their VIS coordinators or social workers can send me information about that particular person that might be helpful.
We're visiting with the Chief of Nutrition and Food Services here at the VA Medical Center, Kathleen Waddell. You also have a brand new program that you're doing, Accommodations. Tell us about that.
We have just started working with Seagull's Academy, and it is students that come in as part of our volunteer services and works for us for about 4 hours a day, providing, doing a variety of services in the nutrition food service. It's providing them an opportunity to get work experience in a kitchen, and with the hope that with these experiences they'll be able to go on and apply for jobs. Mm-hmm. So it's started this week. We've had them for, this is their second day, and they have been an absolute delight.
All right. We talked a little bit about recruitment before you came on and the selection process. Now, we're bringing these new students in, if you will, as mentees,
Yes.
and you're going to teach them something, and it's on-the-job training. Can they ever get to a level that if there's a job application open, that you can get them and recruit them and bring them in?
Certainly. I think the expectation is that we may be able to bring some of the students to a point where they are able to fill some of our positions. We presently have some disabled employees working with us. One that has been with us 11 years and started in a similar program. So there is certainly the opportunity for them to learn the skills and be a productive part of our organization. One avenue is as we have openings, we will encourage them to apply for the positions. When they apply and go through the interview process, then a certain number of these employees we certainly would be able to bring on board. But it really depends on what skills they come with at the time and what level they've been brought up to. We in the past year and a half have brought on a deaf employee who has come through without a special program, but came through the hiring process and has done an absolutely wonderful job, has even increased her hours from part-time to a full-time position because she's been so effective in the position.
You and I both know that employing a person with a disability is employing a very loyal, trustworthy individual that will be there for you and literally climb the ranks to the higher level. And it's happening right here at the VA.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen.
You're welcome.
Thanks for joining us.
Sure.
And keep them going up, eh?
We will, thank you.
All right, thank you. We're here with Jessica Delgado, and she's from the HR department here at the VA Medical Center. Thank you for joining us, Jessica.
Thank you for having me.
Tell me, what do you do as an HR specialist here?
What my role is, I'm the reasonable accommodation coordinator, and I'm available for making sure that if there's an employees that needs a reasonable accommodation to perform the essential functions of their position, or if there is applicants with people with disability that would like to apply for any of our jobs, we make sure that we provide them, assist them on how to apply for jobs. We advertise our positions through usajobs.gov, which is www.usajobs.gov.
All right, now this applicant has been recruited, and now you have these applications. So what is the next step in determining in the selection process the right applicant for the right job?
Well, we first review the applications and ensure that all the documents are included. The candidates that qualify for the position, we send it to the selecting official. The selecting official conducts interviews, and they select based on the candidate's qualification and what is suitable for the job. We also consider Schedule A.
What is Schedule A?
Schedule A is a program to hire people with disability. They contact me, they provide their resume, they have to provide proof of disability, and then we consider them for, along with other applicants.
So they could just come to the VA and say, I would like to see if there's any openings in such and such department. If they have a disability, you'll just interview them personally first?
Well, there will be interview along with the other applicants.
Okay. In today's economy, a lot of people that are working are now suffering from shift disorders. How does the VA Medical Center prevent their employees from suffering from shift disorders?
Most of them, believe it or not, they love the 12-hour shift, especially the nurses, because then they work 3 days and then they have the 4 days off to spend with their family. But if there is a case that they would like to switch shifts, then that's when I come into place. They even go through the supervisor, go straight to me, and then what we work straight with their service chief and trying to accommodate them. If they cannot, if there's any other shift that can be accommodated, then we will try to find suitable jobs that they qualify within this medical center. And if that is not possible, then we will look throughout all other VAs.
They come back to parades, high school bands, and celebrations. We welcome them with open arms as heroes. Their tours of duty are behind them. Their challenges are not. Many will spend longer coming back from the war than they spent in the war, retraining, searching for jobs, recovering from scars, some visible, some not. Find out what you can do to help at welcomebackveterans.org.
Floridians are working all kinds of different shifts. And did you know that around 15 million Americans work evenings, irregular hours, rotating or split shifts, or all of the above? Those schedules can definitely have a negative impact on both the shift worker and their families, according to a new survey from Men's Health Network and Cephalon. Dr. Jean Bonham is here to share the results of this survey. Dr. Bonham, what is shift work disorder and what are some of its symptoms?
The human body has a natural rhythm that lets it know when it's supposed to be sleeping and when it's supposed to be awake. When we work or stay awake during the hours that we're normally supposed to be sleeping, this rhythm becomes disrupted. The Men's Health Network and Cephalon surveyed 1,500 shift workers, people who work non-traditional hours, and these included IT workers, firefighters, doctors, nurses, anybody working a non-traditional schedule, and they found that 4 out of 10 of them were reporting that they were having difficulties because of their non-traditional work schedule. 3 out of 10 reported having fallen asleep on the job in the past month alone, some of them several times. An additional 4 out of 10 stated that they had nearly fallen asleep. Several reported emotional difficulties such as feelings of frustration, feelings of being drained, feelings of anxiety, feelings of depression, and it was having significant problems with their social relationships, with their family relationships, and this is what made the survey so important.
People need to work 2 or more jobs in this challenging economy. So what do they do?
Well, you're absolutely right. When this economy, it's difficult to change jobs or to choose the hours you may want to work, but it's also important to recognize that this is a legitimate medical condition that can be treated. So many shift workers believe that fatigue and insomnia, not being able to sleep when they want to, and all these other symptoms are an inevitable part of being a shift worker, but it's not. It is an actual medical disease that can be treated and it can be helped.
Thank you, Dr. Bonham, for joining us this morning with Shift Work Disorders. Another issue facing America's workers is there's approximately 3.2 million people living with chronic migraines in the U.S. Chronic migraines is a neurological condition accompanied by nausea and/or vomiting and light and sound sensitivities. People living with chronic migraines often miss work or even a grand event like a wedding. Joining us this morning is Dr. Peter McAllister, headache expert, clinical assistant, and professor of neurology at Yale University School of Medicine. So, doctor, what is the distinction between a migraine and a chronic migraine?
It's bad enough to have 2 or 3 headache days per month, but some of my patients have 20, 25, 30 headache days per month. And it's not just headache. As you mentioned, it's nausea, light and sound sensitivity, vomiting, mental slowness, fatigue. So they really do miss out on a whole lot of their life because of this disabling condition.
How about loss of work days, which is an issue for an employee as well as the employer, right?
Oh, right. I've had patients who can't keep a job. They're constantly calling in sick. It winds up being, you know, a major factor economically for them. And migraine in general is responsible for many lost days, but chronic migraine is even a more severe form. It's the most severe form of migraine that there is, and these people really are what we call functionally disabled. That is, they're missing key parts of their life, including work and family and social functions. Well, you know, most chronic migraine sufferers started out as infrequent or episodic migraine sufferers. And while there's no cure now, my job is to take people who are having many, many disabling headache and migraine days per month and get them down to a much smaller number. We slide them back from 27, 16 headache days down to 2 or 3 or 4, and then when we get to that small number, we give them abortive treatment to knock out those particular headaches. The goal of treatment really is to decrease headache days, decrease severity, and really eliminate that functional disability, that missing things.
Florida's rate for ages 12 to 17 is the 10th highest in the nation. More on this when we return.
Welcome home, man.
According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, SAMHSA, rates of needing and not receiving treatment for drug use in Florida are at one of the highest in the nation. Florida's rate for ages 12 to 17 is the 10th highest in the country. Roger Wolfson, TV writer and producer in Hollywood, and Paolo De Vecchio, a self-described consumer of mental health services and survivor and associate director of consumer affairs at the Center for Mental Health Services in the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, joins us this morning. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Rosalie.
Good morning, Rosalie.
So Roger, tell us how a TV writer and producer became involved with the Voice Awards and SAMHSA.
In 1996, I was a staffer in the Senate. I was working for Senator John Kerry, and there was a 1996 rescissions bill that was going to take out $14.7 million from SAMHSA. But John Kerry and I were not going to have any of that. So we fought to protect SAMHSA and keep the funding there. And ever since, I've been not quite as dedicated as you, Rosalie, but fighting for mental health services and substance abuse treatment funding has been an important part of my life. Coming to Hollywood, it's only in some ways gotten more important because moving from politics to Hollywood, my audience has actually kind of grown. And I recognize, as do fortunately a lot of the people I work with, that my audience needs to hear some of what you and Paolo have to say.
Paolo, you have a personal story to share with our viewers, and it's inspirational, and it also helps Roger when he's writing his TV scripts. So how does this all help depict a person with a mental health or a substance abuse disorder?
I have experienced mental health problems myself since actually the 3rd grade was my first experience. I've suffered with depression most of my life. Now raise a family, 3 young children, beautiful wife, home, and work for the federal government as the first self-identified mental health consumer. And you know, the Voice Awards really is about giving us a voice. It's about changing the depictions, the myths, the stigma associated with mental illness, that we can recover and that we do contribute to our communities. We're happy this year is our 6th annual Voice Awards. We've got some great folks that we're recognizing, including Gabrielle Gifford's aide and shooting victim himself, Ron Barber, as well as Tucson Mayor Bob Walkup and his wife Beth. And what they've done, Rosalie, is after the shooting in Tucson, they've turned that around to now educate both within Tucson as around the nation around mental health awareness. The Affordable Care Act also will greatly expand access to mental health and addiction services. And I really encourage folks, if they need help, to please go to our website, which is www.samhsa.gov. That's SAMHSA.gov.
Thank you both for all the great work you're doing to give people with mental health and substance abuse disorders a voice in our community.
Thank you, Rosalie.
And thank you for yours, Rosalie.
Mental illness is common. Of Florida's approximately 18.3 million residents, close to 660,000 adults live with serious mental health illness. Dr. David Shern is president and CEO of Mental Health America.
The way psychiatric advance directives work is that when a person who has a serious mental illness is feeling well, it's an opportunity for them to express their wishes and desires and identify somebody who they trust who can help them if they find themselves in psychiatric crisis. So it's anticipating and preparing for a crisis in advance to make sure that that person's voice is represented through the crisis situation. And so it's really when somebody who has an illness is kind of at their worst in a way and needs someone to intercede on their behalf. Oftentimes when that happens to people, they don't feel as though they're actively involved in their own care. People are doing things to them, and some of those things can be experienced actually as harmful. So by having a psychiatric advance directive and having someone who you trust who can be with you, it increases the likelihood that what happens to you will be seen as helpful and that you'll still feel as though you're actively involved in the processes. Oftentimes people with severe mental illnesses can become isolated from family and friends, and that only makes the effects of their illness more profound, more damaging. By entering into a psychiatric advance directive and sort of crafting this plan with a family member, it helps structure that interaction. It sort of gives you a path to start to work together in a way that can start to build those relationships back and start to make a person feel as though they're connected and feel as though they're respected and their wishes are understood and will be represented. So there are several advantages to keeping people actively involved in their own care and in their own recovery plan.
From job accommodations at the VA Medical Center and new workplace programs to address a myriad of disabilities, Floridians are dealing with work shift disorders, migraines, emotional and mental health issues, while at the same time, all working harder to keep what they own. If you or someone you know can use this show's resources to keep them healthy in and out of the workplace, grab a pen and paper or use your smartphone to utilize our resources today. Thank you for joining us. And if you're looking for more resources to increase your quality of life, well, we'll see you next week.
Will the solutions to this show's issues help you or a loved one? Find shows like this and others on our website at rosaliearchershow.com.